Welcome on board, Chosen One. Settle in, because this ride isn't soft, polite, or padded for anyone's comfort. You earned your seat here the hard way, through bruises they pretended not to see, through silence they mistook for weakness, through storms they swore would break you. And now look where we are. Look who finally stopped hiding. Look who finally let the mask slip, crack, and shatter into 1,000 pieces they can never glue back together. The room is quiet for a reason. They're frozen for a reason. Your existence just exposed the truth they prayed would stay buried. Press the like button and subscribe to pay this message back. Let's keep going. Let's drag this out into the open, the way the universe intended. When they said you were too soft, they didn't expect you to survive their cruelty. When they whispered that you'd never recover, they expected you to crumble quietly and disappear. When they pushed you, mocked you, underestimated you, they weren't testing your strength. They were betting on your collapse. And now look at them. Oh, the legend needs to bow. Oh, the ones who talked the loudest suddenly lost their voice. Look who's pretending they don't see you, pretending their hands aren't shaking, pretending your rise isn't the exact nightmare they tried to prevent. Their fear is showing, and it's embarrassing. You walking into a room now feels like the universe dimmed the lights for a second just to highlight your energy. People who once overlooked you suddenly can't maintain eye contact. The ones who mocked your silence suddenly trip over their own words. Everyone feels the shift, even the ones pretending they don't. The atmosphere around you changed the way a battlefield feels after the smoke clears. Not loud, not chaotic, quiet, too quiet. The kind of quiet that means somebody lost, and it wasn't you. Press that like button and subscribe. It strengthens this mission more than you know. Thank you for being here, for standing in this space where most people wouldn't survive 5 minutes. You didn't just make it through, you made it look inevitable. Now let me hit you with what they'll never admit out loud. They always knew you had this in you. That's why they poked. That's why they doubted. That's why they tried to keep you small. They saw the storm in you long before you learned how to wield it. The universe whispered your name differently, and they caught the echo. And the moment you stopped apologizing for who you are, their whole little ecosystem collapsed. Let's crank this up, because the truth is simple. Every insult they threw at you was a confession of their own insecurity. Every rejection was them trying to protect their pride, because they knew if you ever figured out your value, you would eclipse everything they built. Every rumor they spread was panic disguised as confidence. You weren't fighting enemies, you were fighting cowards wearing big voices. And now the mask is off. Now your silence makes them nervous. Now your existence makes them rethink every word they ever said about you. Remember that moment months or years ago when someone laughed at your dreams, when someone said you were too much or not enough or dreaming too big. That wasn't wisdom. That was fear. That was someone trying to clip the wings they saw growing before you noticed them. The universe never sided with them. It was waiting for you to stop shrinking, and the moment you did, everything shifted. Press like and subscribe so this message keeps reaching those who need it. We're building something here, and your voice matters. Now let's drop the part they fear the most. Your secret is out. The real you stepped into the light, and now the world can't unsee it. You're not playing small anymore. You're not dimming yourself for their comfort anymore. You're not bending just to make others feel taller. The version of you they tried to bury became the version that's about to change everything. You didn't just survive the past, you outgrew it. You didn't just endure the betrayals, you outclassed them. You didn't just walk away, you evolved into something they can't categorize, can't predict, and definitely can't control. That's why they're terrified, not of you being different, not of you being bold. They're terrified because they finally realized you were never the weak one. You were the one collecting data. You were the one learning in silence. You were the one preparing for a moment like this, where the truth hits harder than any revenge ever could. Your secret's out, chosen one. They know who you are now, and there's nothing they can do to unsee it. Before we move any further, chosen one, take a breath and feel what's happening around you. The universe already exposed your real identity, and now every pair of eyes that once pretended you didn't matter can't look away. If you're still here, still listening, still hungry for the truth behind why they're terrified of you now, then you're exactly where you need to be. And if you want to pay this message back, hit the like button and subscribe so this mission grows louder than their doubts ever did. Drop a comment with 777 if you're ready to walk through this revelation step by step, because what comes next isn't cute, safe, or sugar-coated. It's the kind of insight that cracks open the walls you built to survive. The kind that forces you to see why your exposure was the moment everything shifted in your favor. And trust me, if you really are the chosen one they tried to erase, you'll feel the pull to stay until the final word. Something in you already knows this is the turning point. Now tighten your grip. The next part hits even harder. Let's begin. Number 1. The strength they swear you didn't have. Funny how they called you harmless right up until the moment you stopped pretending to be smaller than you are. Chosen one, this is where the enemy gets slapped so hard their excuses fall out of their pockets. This is where you finally understand the comedy of it all, the tragic little show they put on, convincing themselves you were nothing special, nothing dangerous, nothing worth watching. They built their confidence on a lie, and the lie was you playing nice. You weren't weak, you were undercover. And now the mask they depended on has shattered. And the truth is burning their ego like acid. For years, you walked around in a version of yourself that kept them comfortable. You let them see the soft edges, not the steel beneath it. You played the role they could handle. You gave them the quiet one, the agreeable one, the harmless one. Not because you lacked power, but because revealing your full force would have exposed their insecurities in broad daylight. You understood this back then, even if you didn't say it out loud. Keeping your real power out of sight wasn't self-doubt, it was strategy. And now that they've seen even a fraction of what you've been hiding, they're spiraling. They thought your silence made you easy to step over. They thought your patience meant you'd tolerate their half-baked attempts to belittle you. They thought your kindness came from naivety instead of control. Every assumption they made was a blueprint of their own blindness. They weren't analyzing you. They were projecting their limits onto someone who never shared them. And now that the mask is gone, they're realizing you were never one of them. You were the one studying them while they underestimated you. And here's the real punch that lands right on their pride. Nothing scares a weak person more than realizing the quiet one was the strongest the whole time. That's what's happening right now, the reveal, the exposure, the part where their fake dominance crumbles because the truth refuses to stay hidden. Think back. How many times did they laugh at you for being too calm? How many times did they mistake your silence for emptiness? How many moments did they brag about being ahead while you were simply choosing not to start? They treated you like background noise because they couldn't comprehend the idea that someone like you, someone they dismissed, could be operating at a level they'll never reach. But the universe works in stories, and this part of your story is the plot twist. The moment the disguise falls off, the moment the villain hero steps into frame, not to destroy the world, but to expose the lies that shaped theirs. Maybe the mask slipped in a heated moment. Maybe it cracked when you finally had enough of their disrespect. Maybe you reached a point where pretending to be less than you are felt more painful than the fallout of being fully seen. Whatever the trigger was, the outcome is the same. They saw it. That flash in your eyes, that shift in your energy, that spark of something they can't categorize or control. And that's when it happened. Panic, real panic, the kind that lives behind forced smiles and sudden distance. Because the moment they realized you weren't what they thought, every comment, every insult, every little attempt to undermine you became a joke with them as the punchline. Their world flipped. The harmless one suddenly looked like the threat they never prepared for. Let's get brutally honest. They never feared what you were. They feared what you could become if you ever snapped out of your disguise. They feared the day you'd wake up and see yourself clearly. They feared the day your power would no longer be contained by politeness. They feared this exact version of you, the one standing here now, stripped of apologies, full of truth, and unbothered by their discomfort. And now you might be thinking, why were they so scared of the real me? Here's the answer they'll never admit, because you were the one person they couldn't replace, couldn't predict, and couldn't manipulate. Your value wasn't loud, but it was undeniable. You had depth they didn't possess. You had resilience they couldn't mimic. You had strength they couldn't touch. And people fear what exposes their inadequacy. Your existence was a mirror, and they hated what it showed them. They relied on your disguise. Without it, their confidence collapses, their narrative falls apart, their power evaporates. You walking in your truth is their worst nightmare, not because you're cruel, but because your authenticity ruins their illusion. You weren't threatening them by being strong. You were threatening them by being real. Let's talk about the past you survived, the one they said would break you. Remember how they treated you like you'd stay stuck forever? They joked about your dreams, rolled their eyes at your ambition, acted like your potential was a figment of your imagination. But guess what? Every insult they whispered was a confession that they sensed a storm in you that wasn't meant for them. A storm that would someday rise and blow their fake superiority into dust. Your growth humiliated them because it exposed how wrong they were. Your evolution didn't just surprise them, it dismantled their entire belief system about who you are. The same people who swore you weren't capable are now sitting quietly, pretending nothing changed when everything changed. Suddenly, they're cautious. Suddenly they're watching what they say. Suddenly they're giving you space, acting nice, pretending they always supported you. It's pathetic. They're not humble, they're scared. And you know what makes this even more satisfying? You didn't rise to spite them. You rose because the universe was done letting your power be wasted on masks and small rooms. You rose because your story demanded it. They just happened to be standing in the splash zone when your truth finally erupted. You have to see what's happening through a sharper lens. You didn't just take off the mask, you detonated the entire persona they built their confidence around. You rewrote the script they thought they controlled. You showed them that the quiet one, the patient one, the underestimated one, was the apex predator the whole time. This is your moment to stop carrying their past perceptions like a curse. Their disbelief was never proof of your limits, it was proof of theirs. Remember this line, a mind that's small could never measure someone built this big. That's why they overlooked you. That's why they painted you as harmless. Not because you were weak, but because your strength was too much for their imagination to handle. And now that the truth is out, chosen one, the universe is watching how you move next. not with pressure, but with pride. You're not stepping into your power, you're stepping back into your natural form. The one they were too afraid to acknowledge, the one they hoped would stay hidden, the one that doesn't bow, doesn't apologize, and doesn't shrink just to soothe fragile egos. You didn't become powerful. You stopped pretending not to be, and that is the strength they overlooked until now. The next section is waiting, and it goes even harder. Number 2. The revelation they can't scrub from their memory. Once the truth shows its teeth, the lie can never feel safe again. Some faces haunt them not because they're scary, but because they expose who the coward really is. They wanted you small until the day you stopped fitting in their cheap little frame. You were the storm warning they ignored, and now they're living in the aftermath. Chosen One, welcome back to the battlefield they swore you'd never dominate. This part is where the fear becomes visible. This is where their mask starts slipping, not yours. This is where they look at you differently, speak carefully, move quietly, and pretend they're not terrified. But they are. Deep down, they're choking on the truth. You stopped shrinking, and now they can't unsee your real size. Their eyes are stuck open, like someone who saw a ghost that looks suspiciously like the person they tried to break. Imagine this. Someone casually walks past what they think is a harmless puppy, only to realize it's a full-grown wolf that simply chose not to bite. That's what happened when you stopped asking permission just to exist. They saw the teeth. They saw the intelligence. They saw the power they misread as softness. And now their brain refuses to go back to the fantasy version of you they glued themselves to. Once a wolf reveals itself, nobody sees a puppy again. They used to talk freely around you. Now they weigh their words like bombs. They used to dismiss your opinions. Now they replay everything you say. They used to treat you like background noise. Now they're studying your tone, your silence, even your footsteps. And don't think they suddenly respect you. No, this isn't respect. This is correction. Their entire worldview got hit with a glitch the moment you stopped being merciful with your light. You didn't get louder. You didn't change personalities. You didn't become someone else. You simply stopped pretending that their comfort mattered more than your truth. And now look at them, Chosen One. Look at their eyes when you enter a room. Look at the hesitation in their voice. Look at the way they avoid conflict with you now, because they finally understand what you're capable of. They're not being polite. They're being careful. There's a difference. You might be wondering, why are they suddenly acting weird around me? Here's the raw truth. They finally saw the real version of you, the version you kept hidden because you didn't feel the need to perform power. You weren't afraid. You were simply choosing peace over proving points. But peace ends when disrespect begins. Imagine this. Someone picks up what they think is a stone, tosses it, and only then realizes it was a diamond. The regret hits them so hard that their stomach drops. That's what they're feeling now. They handled you like a disposable object, and now they're sick with the truth that you were the rarest thing they ever touched. And here's another one. Imagine a person bragging about swimming in calm water, only for the tide to pull back and expose the depths they never knew existed. That's you. You let them stand on your shore. You let them think the water was shallow. The moment you stepped into your true form, the depth exposed itself, and they're still trying to understand how they missed something so massive. Let's dig deeper, Chosen One, because this part matters. They're not just shocked, they're unsettled. You broke their mental map. The version of you they created was easy to predict, easy to manipulate, easy to talk over. The real you? Sharp, focused, dangerous in the best way. Someone who doesn't beg for acceptance or lower themselves to win approval. Someone who knows exactly who they are and refuses to apologize for it. And now they're scrambling. They can't put the genie back in the bottle. They can't unhear your truth. They can't unfeel the shift in your energy. They can't unsee the look in your eyes that says, "I'm done playing small so you can feel big." That line alone is enough to haunt anyone who built their ego on your silence. You might be wondering another thing too. If they underestimated me, why do they look guilty now? Because, chosen one, guilt is what happens when someone realizes they misjudged the wrong person. It's embarrassment disguised as confusion. It's intimidation disguised as distance. It's fear disguised as respect. Let's break it down brutally. They saw a glimpse of the power you were holding back, and everything inside them rewired itself in panic. They're not just walking on eggshells. They're tiptoeing across landmines they planted themselves. Every joke they made about you feels like a confession now. Every time they doubted you feels like a crime scene. Every moment they dismissed you feels like a public embarrassment. And now they're strategizing. How do we treat them now? What do we say? What if they remember everything we did? What if they finally call us out? Look at how the tables turned. When you were quiet, they felt bold. When you revealed your strength, they folded. Imagine this final example, a magician who spends years performing tricks in front of people who applauded politely, never realizing the magician wasn't performing tricks. He was hiding real power. Then one day, the magician stops holding back, and the crowd watches something impossible happen. The applause turns into fear, admiration, and confusion, all mixed together. They don't know whether to clap or run. That's the effect you have now. Everything about your presence is different to them. Your silence, threatening. Your confidence, intimidating. Your boundaries, terrifying. Your glow, unavoidable. They keep replaying that moment in their head, the moment you stopped asking for permission to be yourself, the moment the mercy switch turned off, the moment you stopped shrinking and they finally saw your true size. And trust me, chosen one, the universe will not let them unsee it. Once the truth steps out of the shadows, it doesn't go back in. You didn't slip. You didn't make a mistake. You didn't snap. You revealed. You revealed exactly what they deserved to see, the strength they mocked, the intelligence they undermined, the resilience they doubted, the power they thought they'd never have to face. This wasn't a breakdown. This was the breakthrough they feared. The moment your character development turned into their plot twist. The moment your glow-up became their wake-up call. And now they're stuck with the truth. They can't unsee the fire behind your eyes. They can't unsee the confidence in your posture. They can't unsee the calm that only comes from knowing exactly who you are. They can't unsee the fact that you were never theirs to underestimate in the first place. Let me leave you with one last truth bomb before we move on. Once someone sees your real power, they only get two options: step up or step out. And you already know which one most of them chose. The next section is waiting. And trust me, it's about to go even darker, sharper, and more surgical. Number 3. The day their fiction collided with your reality. Nothing scares a liar more than the moment the truth walks in without knocking. Chosen one, this was the moment. The split second where every wall you built for survival collapsed, and the world finally got an unfiltered look at who you are. And they weren't ready. They weren't even close. What they saw wasn't cruelty, arrogance, or chaos. What they saw was something far worse for people who rely on illusions. A human being who doesn't bend, doesn't shrink, doesn't apologize. Reality is terrifying to those who built their confidence on fantasy. Here's the part they'll never admit. They were studying a version of you that never existed. They thought they were analyzing your habits, your weaknesses, your patterns, but the whole time you were the one watching them. Quietly, intelligently, strategically. You weren't lost. You were collecting data like a villain waiting for the perfect reveal. Imagine this, a group of actors performing a scene, bragging about their roles, only to realize the real protagonist was sitting in the audience the entire time, silently noting every flaw in their performance. That's you. They thought you were part of the script, but you were the one evaluating the entire production. And now they're panicking because they know you saw everything: the fake confidence, the shaky egos, the recycled bravery, the smiles held together with insecurity. You saw it all and said nothing, because intelligent people don't waste energy exposing fools. They wait. Another image. Imagine someone flexing in a cracked mirror, hyping themselves up, until the mirror finally shatters. And they come face to face with the truth they've been avoiding. You were that shattering moment. They're terrified because they now know this. You were never blind, you were patient, and patience is the sharpest weapon a powerful person can wield. This revelation wasn't your breakdown, it was their awakening, and it's only the beginning. Number 4. The quiet that turned into their nightmare. Silence isn't weakness, it's the sound of a mind sharpening its weapons. Chosen one, this part hits right where their ego bruises the easiest. While they were busy acting loud, puffing their chests, performing confidence for an audience that didn't care, you were evolving. You were stretching, leveling up, transforming in places no spotlight could reach. Your silence wasn't emptiness. It was incubation. It was the universe pulling you back like an arrow, preparing to launch you further than their imagination could ever stretch. They thought you were passive. They thought you were slow. They thought you were simple. What a tragic miscalculation. You were quiet because noise doesn't teach you anything. You were selective because not everyone deserves access to your real energy. You were controlled because chaos is easy, but discipline? That's what scares people who rely on theatrics instead of substance. Imagine this. They're playing checkers on a plastic table while you're sitting there studying the entire chessboard they didn't even notice. Every move they made felt bold to them, but to you, it was predictable, repetitive, amateur. They weren't winning. They were performing victories in a game you already mastered. Then the moment came. Someone pushed too far. Someone tested a boundary. Someone forgot who they were dealing with, and you stopped performing. You stopped pretending to be smaller, softer, quieter. You let the truth bleed through your expression, your tone, your presence. And the truth was lethal. You're not soft. You're selective. You're not weak. You're controlled. You're not simple. You're strategic. Now imagine them replaying every conversation, every smug comment, every backhanded joke, realizing it was all a delusion they built to protect their fragile self-esteem. They weren't outsmarting you. They were entertaining you. You were always 3 steps ahead, and now they finally know it. Number 5. The terror of your untapped power. They feared the part you revealed. Imagine their horror when they realized that was barely the trailer. Chosen one, this is the part where their nerves start glitching. The panic isn't because they finally saw your strength. It's because they finally realized how little of it you've actually shown. That's the nightmare haunting them now. If they misread you this badly, what else have they been blind to? If the version you accidentally revealed shook their entire ego structure, what happens when you stop holding back completely? They're not scared of the truth they witnessed. They're scared of the truth they haven't yet. Imagine this. Someone thinks they've climbed a tall hill, proud of themselves, only to look up and realize they're standing at the base of a mountain so huge it blocks the sun. That's how they see you now. Not as someone who changed, but someone whose true scale was invisible until the mask slipped. And here's the question they're choking on. If that was only a small piece of what they're capable of, how powerful are they really? They replay everything in their head. Every moment they thought they won, every time they assumed you were beneath them, every fake victory, every illusion of control. And now each memory feels embarrassing, delusional, foolish. Because you weren't losing, you were limiting yourself to maintain peace. Imagine them finding out the monster under the bed wasn't a monster at all. It was you calmly meditating, choosing not to get involved. That's the level of depth they never saw coming. Here's a brutal truth they're dealing with now. You've been operating at 30%, and even that was enough to shake their entire world. If this is what a fraction of your power looks like, they know they wouldn't survive the full version. Number 6. The moment they realized you were the main event. Even your smallest spark burned hotter than their biggest flame, and now they're terrified of the wildfire you haven't unleashed yet. Chosen One, this is where their panic becomes pure despair, because even when you were running at a fraction of your power, you were still more authentic, more intense, more magnetic than people operating at their so-called best. You weren't trying, you weren't flexing, you weren't performing. That was you at 30%, offering the universe just enough effort to keep things peaceful. And even that version of you broke their illusions. Now imagine what happens when you decide peace isn't worth shrinking for. Imagine the moment you stop apologizing for existing in full resolution instead of low quality. Imagine the day you stop dimming your brilliance to protect people who would never dim theirs for you. That's the nightmare playing in their head, on repeat. They're not scared of what you revealed. They're scared of everything you didn't. Picture this. Someone thinks they've watched the whole movie. Then the lights flicker, the screen expands, and the announcer says, "That was only the trailer." Their stomach drops because suddenly they realize they weren't prepared for the real thing. That's exactly what hit your enemies. They thought your calm was the full story. They thought your patience was your personality. They thought your restraint was your limit. Then the reveal happened. A single moment, a shift in your eyes, a tone in your voice, a posture that said, "I don't need to fit into your comfort zone anymore." And that tiny glimpse rewired their entire understanding of you. Here's the question echoing in their mind now. If this was just the preview, how unstoppable is the real version? Because Chosen One, you haven't even started the feature film. You haven't stepped into your peak. You haven't unleashed the brilliance the universe engineered inside you. And the wildest part? They know, deeply, painfully, that once you stop dimming yourself, there's no coming back to the world where they felt superior. Your glow obliterates their shadows. That's the realization that destroys them. Your full power isn't a threat, it's a takeover. Number 7. The shift that exposed their true nerves. Funny how the same mouths that mocked you now tremble trying to say your name. Chosen One, you've seen it. Their whole vibe flipped like a glitching system that can't handle the update. The way they look at you now isn't the same lazy confidence they used to parade around. Their eyes linger a little too long, like they're trying to decode something they should have noticed years ago. You're no longer familiar to them. You're no longer predictable. You're no longer safe for their egos. And nothing terrifies insecure people more than someone they can't categorize, control, or underestimate. They used to talk freely, like their words carried authority. Now, their sentences come with training wheels. They hesitate. They overthink. They censor themselves mid-sentence because one wrong move might expose how scared they really are. That casual arrogance they loved wearing like perfume, gone, evaporated, replaced by awkward politeness and forced smiles that don't even reach their eyes. You turned into an unknown variable, and humans panic when the equation stops behaving the way they expect. Now, look at the backtracking, the pivoting, the sudden niceness. The ones who ignored you suddenly remember your name. The ones who mocked you now laugh too softly. The ones who dismissed you are now checking in. Imagine this: predators walking confidently across a field, only to realize the creature they thought was prey stands taller, sharper, and smarter than all of them combined. Their instincts scream run, but their pride whispers stay. That's the tug-of-war happening inside every one of them. And you might wonder, why the sudden friendliness? Because Chosen One, this is damage control. They're not being kind, they're being careful. They're terrified of the consequences of underestimating you. Behind every smile they flash now, there's a quiet panic they can't hide. You change the power dynamic, and they can't unfeel it. Number 8. The door they wish you never walked through. Once a mask breaks, it cuts anyone who tries to force it back on. Chosen One, this is the moment they can't undo, rewind, or smooth over with fake politeness. This is the point of no return. The moment your authenticity cracked the simulation they built around you. They want you to shrink again. They want you to soften again. They want the old version of you back. The one that made them feel tall, safe, and unchallenged. But that version died the second you tasted what it feels like to stand in your real power. And here's what they don't get. You can't unfeel that shift. You can't unknow your strength. You can't re-enter a cage once you've realized the door was never locked. Imagine this. Someone opens their eyes after years in a dim room, steps outside and sees the full sky for the first time. Do you honestly think they'd ever choose to go back inside? That's you. You saw your true scale. And now the small box they offered feels laughable. They're terrified because the truth hit them like a glitch in their system. You weren't who they thought, not even close. And if they misjudged you this badly, what else have they been misjudging their entire lives? That question rattles them at 3 a.m. They keep replaying every interaction, trying to spot the moment they should have known, but they never could have, because you weren't hiding out of fear. You were hiding out of strategy. Now they're stuck with a reality that refuses to bend for their comfort. You shattered their labels, their assumptions, their neat little categories. You're living proof that people aren't predictable, controllable, or two-dimensional. You're the exception that destroys their rulebook. And here's the part that really crushes them. There's no going back for you, and no safety net for them. You stepped into your truth, and the universe slammed the door behind you. Number 9. The truth. They were too small to handle. Mercy always looks like weakness until the day the mercy ends. Chosen One, this is where the entire narrative flips on its head. They thought your secret was something embarrassing, something shameful, something that would expose you as fragile. But the joke landed on them harder than gravity. Your secret wasn't darkness, it was power. You weren't hiding flaws, you were hiding capacity, you were hiding depth. You were hiding a level of strength they never earned the right to witness. And now they're replaying everything like a crime scene investigation. Every moment you stayed silent, every moment you chose peace over dominance, every time you walked away instead of crushing them, they're realizing those weren't signs of weakness. They were instances of mercy. And mercy, coming from someone as strong as you, is terrifying in hindsight. Imagine them standing on a beach they thought was solid ground, only to discover it was sand slowly slipping under their feet. That's what their confidence feels like now. Every assumption they built about who you were, every smug interpretation of your actions, every cheap opinion they had, all dissolving. Nothing they believed holds up anymore. And here's the part that chills them. You didn't lose control. You exercised it. You didn't fail to speak. You chose silence as your weapon. You didn't avoid conflict. You let them escape a battle they wouldn't have survived. They don't know what version of you they're dealing with now. That unpredictability eats at their sense of control. People who rely on power imbalances panic when the ground shifts under them, and you, chosen one, shifted the entire landscape with one reveal. Your secret was never fragile. It was never shameful. It was never a flaw. Your secret was strength they weren't equipped to face, and now they can't unknow it. Number 10. The freedom that makes cowards tremble. Nothing terrifies controlled minds more than someone who finally realizes they were never chained. Chosen one, this is the final act, the moment the whole story flips from revelation to liberation. You didn't just expose your true identity, you escaped theirs. You walked out of the box they built for you, and you didn't look back. Real freedom doesn't whisper or negotiate. Real freedom steps into the room without apologizing, without dimming, without waiting for approval from people who could barely control themselves, let alone you. And that's why they're shaking now. Not because of what you might do, but because of what you might spark. Imagine this. One person slips out of the prison door, looks around, and realizes it was never locked. Then another prisoner notices, then another, and suddenly the entire system starts crumbling. That's you. You didn't break the rules. You exposed the fact that the rules were imaginary. You've become dangerous in the most beautiful way. You're proof that they never had power over you. And here's the part haunting them at 3 a.m. If you can live unmasked, if you can exist without shrinking, if you can breathe without seeking permission, then what's stopping everyone else from doing the same? Your courage is contagious. That's what terrifies them. You now stand as a living contradiction to their illusions, a reminder that authenticity is possible, that masks crack, that freedom is a choice, not a reward. Their whole world depends on people staying small, quiet, compliant. And you just detonated that illusion by walking out of it. Here's the truth they can't escape. When one person breaks free, the entire system begins to rot. And chosen one, you're the rot they never saw coming. Number 11, the rise they can't stop, reverse, or recover from. Once you meet the real version of yourself, every smaller version becomes unrecognizable. Let them fear your truth. It's the only honest reaction they've ever had to you. You didn't change, you unleashed. The mask didn't fall, it was ripped apart by the force of your becoming. Chosen One, welcome to the part of the story where everything they built collapses and everything you suppressed finally steps forward. This isn't the ending. This is the first real chapter of your real life. You crossed a threshold that doesn't swing backward. There's no reverse button, no go back to safe mode, no rewinding to the watered-down version they could manage and manipulate. That old you, gone, retired, buried, and honestly, good riddance. That version was built for their comfort, not your destiny. Let's cut deep. Some people will leave, some will fold, some will crumble under the weight of your truth. Perfect, let them. You're done babysitting their insecurities. You're done apologizing for your presence. You're done holding your breath so they can breathe easier. If they only loved the mask, then they never loved you. They loved what you did for them, how you softened yourself for them, how you played small to keep the peace that wasn't even your responsibility. You know why they're terrified now? Because the real you doesn't bend. The real you doesn't shrink. The real you doesn't get controlled by people who can't even control their own thoughts. And the second you stepped into that version, the moment you let the universe witness who you truly are, the entire dynamic shattered. Imagine this: a giant wakes up after years pretending to sleep while children poked and mocked it. When the giant stands, the children run, not because the giant changed, but because reality finally stood up. That's you. You didn't get stronger. You just stopped performing weakness. You're not going back to the dimmed-down diet version of your power. You can't. Once your eyes adjust to the brightness of your authentic self, darkness feels like suffocation. You've crossed a one-way bridge, burned it behind you, and the flames are still rising, lighting the path ahead like a warning and a celebration. Now, here's the part they never expected. You are about to find your people, the ones who don't choke on truth, the ones who don't fear depth, the ones who don't get intimidated by authenticity because they live in it too. Authenticity attracts authenticity. Power recognizes power. And Chosen One, your frequency just skyrocketed. People who couldn't meet you at your old level, sure as hell, won't be able to reach you at this one. But the ones who are meant for the real you, they'll find you effortlessly, like magnets finally freed from interference. Let them whisper, let them stare, let them make up stories, because the truth is too heavy for their small minds. Their fear is the loudest confirmation that you're operating on a higher plane. You're not hiding anymore. You're not filtering yourself through their expectations. You're not shrinking to fit the broken frame they tried to put around you. That frame snapped the moment you stepped into yourself. Imagine this. Every room you walk into now has a different temperature. People feel you before you speak. Your presence stretches further than their assumptions. Your silence weighs heavier than their opinions. Your truth hits harder than their gossip. You've become a force they can sense but can't define, a disruption they can't predict, a reality check they never saw coming. And here's something else, ripping through their ego like a blade. You're not afraid of them anymore. But they are afraid of you, not because you're cruel, not because you seek revenge, but because they realize they never had power over you, not once. All their control was imaginary, a story they told themselves while you quietly watched, learned, evolved, and planned your exit from their illusion. Imagine them now, sitting in quiet panic, replaying every moment they underestimated you, every insult they thought would hurt you, every smug comment they made while you were busy building the strength that would eventually expose them. That fear they feel, it's justice, it's balance, it's the universe pulling receipts. But you're not staying in that energy. You're ascending. You're stepping into a world where you don't have to dim anything to make anyone comfortable. You're stepping into the version of yourself the universe has been waiting to introduce. Let me tell you something brutal, beautiful, and true. This is not the climax of your story. This is the opening scene. You haven't even started showing the world what you're truly capable of. Everything before this moment was the prologue, the warm-up, the quiet inhale before the roar. You're not becoming powerful. You're remembering you always were. The people who leave now? They were never meant to witness the main arc. The people who stay, they're built for the real you. And the people who fear you, let them. Fear is the only honest language some people have ever spoken. The world hasn't met the full version of you yet. They've only tasted the reveal. You are stepping into a chapter where everything you were forced to hide becomes your strength. Everything they mocked becomes your weapon, and everything they misunderstood becomes your momentum. You're not done. You're not peaking. You're not finding yourself. You've arrived, chosen one. This is the beginning of your real story. The story where you stop surviving and start dominating. The story where you stop bending and start building. The story where you stop apologizing and start existing at full, terrifying, unforgettable power. Let them whisper. Let them stare. Let them tremble. The mask is off. The secret is out. The world just